Hello, my name is Marci Jordan. Welcome to On the Job. And today we're going to talk about the difference between being an independent contractor and an employee on the job. With so many startup companies and so many non-traditional companies in today's economy, it's important to know whether you'll be covered by workers' compensation benefits if you work for one of these non-traditional type companies. Now, let's look at the Uber or the Lyft driver, for example. Uber considers its drivers independent contractors and not employees, and it does not provide workers' compensation benefits for its drivers. So generally the rule is independent contractors are not eligible for workers' compensation benefits. So these companies advertise for drivers and they promise flexible hours and little supervision. And that may be great. That may be exactly what you're looking for, the flexible hours and the ability to set your own schedule. And while the help wanted advertisements for these companies might convince you that being a driver for these companies and earning additional cash is a great way to be employed, you might be left out in the cold if you get injured while working as a driver for one of these companies. So what Uber does is they pretty much promise that anybody that has a valid New Jersey driver's license, who has a personal car insurance policy, a clean driving record, and you actually have to have a four-door car, you can meet their requirement to be an Uber driver in New Jersey. So what does the driver get to do? Well, the driver makes his or her own hours. And the driver can work as much as he or she chooses, as much or as little as the driver wants to work is what they're able to do for these companies. And then the driver is paid a percentage of the fares that are earned. The company provides the driver with a 1099 form, and then the driver has to pay their own taxes and insurance at the end of the year. So what does the company provide? Well, the company, the Uber type company, provides liability coverage and general liability insurance in case the Uber driver injures somebody else. So if the Uber driver's out there driving and they injure someone in another vehicle or in their vehicle, the policies are in place for that. But what happens if the Uber driver themselves gets injured while they're driving for one of these companies? Well, since workers' comp is generally not provided for these drivers, you're basically on your own to figure out how you're going to get medical benefits and to get your own care. So whatever coverage you already have through your own health insurance company or your own automobile policy is all that you're going to get. Well, what would workers' comp have provided for you if you were considered an employee? Well, first of all, you're entitled to medical care through workers' comp. Now, you get medical care provided and paid 100% by the workers' compensation carrier. The employer and or their workers' comp carrier gets to pick your doctor. But once they pick the doctor, they have to pay for 100% of your care with no co-pays, no deductibles, and no limits, no lifetime limits. It can be ongoing forever if in the right case scenario. And while the workers' compensation doctor has you out of work, you're entitled to be paid 70% of your average weekly wages up to a maximum for the year of your injury. And then the third benefit you're entitled to through workers' comp is what's called partial permanency benefits. And that is basically a settlement to compensate you for the injury. So that's what you'd get if you had workers' comp. Well, courts in New Jersey have looked at the issues in cases like the Uber type situation. And in my opinion, they would probably consider the Uber driver as an independent contractor and not an employee eligible for workers' compensation benefits. So the courts have basically set down a 12-part test to look at what happens between the employer and the alleged employee. And they look at supervision and who furnishes the equipment, how the person's paid, how taxes are paid, how benefits are paid. And basically they look at the intention of the party. The more control the company has over the worker, the more likely the worker will be considered an employee. So the less control, the less likely the worker will be considered an employee. But it's important to keep in mind that just because your company tells you you're an independent contractor does not mean you necessarily are under the law. So all of these situations are very fact sensitive. We have to look at all of the relationship between the company and the worker, and these are things that can be fought in workers' compensation court. So thank you for watching On the Job. Again, I'm Marci Jordan.